welcome to Musings. I'm your host, Hannah Fitz, author of I Am the Gatekeeper and founder of hannahfitz.com. Today, I'm so excited to introduce a woman who is the essence of authentically living and being your brand. Latham Thomas is the founder and CEO of mamaglow.com. She's a birth and wellness coach, nutrition expert, celebrity doula, yogi, lifestyle marvin, mother to celebrity child prodigy, DJ Fulano, star of Om on the Go on YouLive, and the author of Mama Glow, a hip guide to your fabulous, abundant pregnancy. She's a graduate of Columbia University and the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. She is a woman who is on a mission to change how women view and experience their pregnancy and life.
Hi, Latham. Thank you so much for joining me here today on Musings.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know that your story resonates with me in the sense that you moved to New York from California and had studied environmental science, which is totally different from what you're into now, which is the health and wellness, the holistic health industry. How did you make that transition from environmental science, which is like more academic, into the holistic health industry?
Well, I kind of see that the environmental science is really just like a stepping stone into health and wellness. As we know, like our environment is our first home, and the health and well-being of the plant systems, the animals that we share the planet with, and the actual ambient landscape is really interdependent on sort of like on our health as well. I see that in hand, they're very integral in sort of like this symbiotic way.
Right.
But my actual sort of journey into prenatal health really came as a result of my pregnancy with my son. He's about to be 13 years old this year. And in that time, I was seeing that there wasn't an abundance of service models dedicated to expectant mothers where you could have your hand held along the journey. And I really wanted it to be more holistic and more aligned and attuned with my values. And so that's what I really sought out to do. So I was like, okay, this doesn't exist. I'll just create it.
Right.
And so, as a true entrepreneur, I just went out and sort of sought the resources, figured out kind of like where my sweet spot was with the information and sort of joining that with where I felt like women really needed the support, and then launched a business model that really offered, three distinct areas of support, which were nutrition and yoga, and then the birth doula service. And so we serve like thousands of moms, which is amazing, and have done a lot of work in the advocacy space as well to help reform some policies and things that are a hindrance to a lot of the way that women want to birth in this city, as well as other parts of the country. So for me, I see it as like an extension of environmental work. I think that, the earth is the mother, but also like each of us, has a world living within us, and it's dependent upon all systems around us being also in this beautiful state of constant fruition. And so I believe that, my work is really, I think I came to it through this extension of, really seeing this connection of the environment on our bodies and the internal environment, right? Being like a real important aspect of like our well-being.
Absolutely. Now, I know that I want to go back to your business a little later, but I just want to touch on the point because a lot of people out there would be scared. How would you say you made that transition? You didn't just make the transition, but you're working with some of the top people in America. You actually became a leading expert in this field. How do you go from there to here?
It was really like at the point where I became pregnant that everything shifted, my focus shifted, and I became really astute as a student in this area of women's health. And I was already very interested in that, and I'd studied nutrition and stuff like that. So it was already like stuff that I was already interested in, but I became a real student. I became a real advocate. I became like really obsessed with the information. And I think with anything that you're going to do, you have to have a level of obsession, a level of, this desire to shift something, to change the world, but really to like learn. And so you just become a learner, really. And for me, it was like, I was constantly learning, constantly taking in information. I think that people should, if it's designed that your work is meant to help people.
Right.
I do believe that you should have the credentials and go through the pathway of getting as many levels of education as possible. I don't necessarily think that that's necessarily in school. For some people, that is going to be getting a degree, but I think a lot of people with degrees have no practical experience.
Exactly.
And when they go out, they can't apply it because it's all theoretical. I don't necessarily think it's that. I think it's also just like, in the trenches, doing these things. There's tons of programs where you can get certifications and all kinds of things so that you feel like you have some credibility. I see people, there's two sides of the spectrum. There's people who know nothing, who took like maybe a mini course on a weekend and all of a sudden now they're teaching something. Yeah. And there's people who have like several degrees and are doctorates and all these things under their belt, and they still don't get out in the world and actually push their work. So I think it's about really finding your voice and what it is that you want to communicate to the world, where your strengths are. And then I think applying that is really like a gift. Like if it's something that you want to do and you don't have the expertise, but you see someone I feel like if you share with people what your focus is, a lot of times you'll encounter the people that you're meant to work with. And so you can still launch a business. You can still do something in an area where you don't have the expertise. If you bring someone on who does have the expertise and the vision, and you can be an active part and a principal in growing that business. So I don't think you necessarily, and you see that all the time in small business, in business ventures that really go through the roof, where there's one person who was like the genius and the talent and the expert, and the other person who was like the business mind, and they came together and they created something really big in the world. So don't underestimate the value of collaboration and of a partnership as well. But if you really feel like you're the one, like it's supposed to come through you, this particular message, then I think that you should seek to really outline that path clearly for yourself and just take one step at a time, and every day show up to put in your hours of work. I think it's through practice and showing up every day that we become the best version of ourselves.
Absolutely. I really love what you said about collaborating with other people who may have the skills, because I think it's something that a lot of entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, overlook. And I mean, if we look at Apple, which is one of the biggest brands in the world, Steve Jobs wasn't necessarily the tech person, but he was great at marketing, and coming together with the tech people, they were able to create this great company. So I really like that point that you just made. Absolutely. The other thing I want to talk about is, I know you started your business, and of course you said you acquired the skills that you needed to really become an expert today in the holistic and health and wellness industry. However, you had your son at the age of 23. What was the process like having to raise a young child, start up a new business, and sort of run your life at the same time?
I don't know. I just did it. I think that, I don't know if there's a formula for it. I'm sure that somebody has a very eloquent answer. I just went for it. There was no other choice. I think that, I'm a single mom. My son, I had support with him until he was about 3. His father and I broke up around then. And so when there was the early stages of me developing what would be Mama Glow, I just, when he was sleeping and taking naps, I would work on what I wanted to, create. And I would sort of draft up like little flow charts and like write out the plan. And this is back in the time when people didn't use a computer as much. So notebooks, I have tons of notebooks that I find. I moved actually like a year ago.
Right.
And I found tons of notebooks, information. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I was writing all this stuff down. And my hand was 13 years ago.
Wow.
But now like everything is typed, right? And so, so what I did was I really wrote down what were the rudiments of what will become Mama Glow, like really what was the movement, what was the book, like all of these things I just did in the time that I wasn't tending to my son.
Right.
The time that I was with him, I was fully committed to spending that time. I was not distracted by, there was no social media. So I had no distraction. So that was really great. And I think like, I had support, like I had a sister circle of supporters, like I have really great friends, family that was stepping in to help me. His grandfather on the paternal side lives here. His dad is very active in looking after him too. So I had that kind of support, but mostly it was like I had to learn to believe in myself, that it was possible and that it was okay to do this with a small child. And I think because of that commitment, it helped my son develop his entrepreneurial, leanings, because he's really committed to business in his own path as well.
I mean, I look at him and there's a saying that I think about every time I see your son, and they say, by their fruits, you shall know them. And honestly, Latham, I think it really is testament to the type of person you are and his dad as well. But I think you being the mother figure in his life and him being that prodigy and this phenomenal DJ at such a young age, is just testament to you as a person. And I just want to salute you for that.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah.
I think it takes a village. It's like I do every day still put so much energy and effort. And for me, it's just been like people who also believe in me that have contributed to helping me with him.
So Mama Glow, again, you said it was inspired by your son, and you can tell that this is like what they call the big rock in your life. It stemmed into your business. How did you identify a niche? Because I think it's one of the hardest things for a lot of new entrepreneurs to step in and say, this is the nucleus that I'm going to focus on, and this is how I'm going to grow my brand. What was it like clarifying that niche, and how have you benefited from that singularity of focus?
That's a great question. I think, it started off where I had a different company that focused on just health and wellness in general. So we did nutrition, yoga, culinary services, and anybody could come. So it was like men, it was women, it was all people at first, right? And this is, before I clarified what, Mama Glow would be, I think it was because a lot of people started coming. The idea was that I would serve moms always because of my experience. And, but I felt at first like, okay, I don't know if I can just make it just for women because that feels like it's such a small, focus. Maybe I should have also like, children and men or, whatever. And ultimately what I decided to do was narrow the focus. And because of that, I was rewarded. And I think that, anytime that you take more off your plate, you have space for other things to come. And so, right. So for me, it was a gift to consolidate and decide like to only focus there, because within that, there's so much you can do within just choosing a lane.
Yeah.
And it's actually very clear for people from a marketing perspective what it is that you offer. They know to come to you for that one thing. You end up getting more business than you do if you try to cast a wide net.
Absolutely.
Because also when you cast a wide net, you also get things that you don't want, right? And
exactly.
So you end up spending more time trying to deflect stuff and like not really getting more new business. And so for me, I think it was like, all right, like this is an area and population that I really know, and I just want to become an expert at this population and their needs and understand what it is that they desire, what it is that they need to feel supported, and like carry them through an experience that I believe every woman should have. I know that when I look at other business models, when I see like, oh, this is for everyone, it ends up not serving anyone. If you try to serve everybody, you end up serving no one, right?
Wow, that's amazing. I think you really hit the nail on the head when you talked about your journey and probably having some doubts about whether this niche will work or not. And I think that's something that will resonate with a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
For sure. But one of the things you mentioned very early was that you wrote down what your movement was going to be. And I believe that for a brand to be successful, there must be three things, which is the message, movement, and of course, your mission. Can you just tell me what your message, movement, and mission at Mama Glow is?
Yes. So our message is that that Mama Glow is a ethereal feeling and essence that belongs to every woman. That's her birthright. Our movement is to empower women to reclaim their bodies as sacred and cross a threshold into motherhood, feeling their most empowered.
Right.
And our mission is to change the world one belly at a time.
Wow. I like that. That's powerful. Very powerful. I think one of the things that I've really admired just looking at your brand and seeing how it's evolved, and also you as a person, I think you really personally and authentically embody your brand. Can you tell me how important is it for entrepreneurs to authentically live their brand?
I think that, in a service-based industry where there's other components of human interaction outside of just one-to-one or group. I think that whatever it is that you're pushing has to be, people have to kind of believe it. And I think they believe it best if you're either a really good marketer or you're the figurehead of the brand and you're sharing the message.
Right.
I think that each of us has our own unique brand of magic. And so if you want to use that to communicate what your brand vision is, then it's believable for people when you tell a good story. So I think it's good to like have that alignment, because it also shows people that you're committed, and so they want to believe in you because you're not just selling them something, that it's something that you also believe and live, and that it looks like maybe that's a solution for your own life, right? Whatever the product or service is.
And it makes it easier to sell. You don't even have to sell it because you're now passionate about it.
Totally.
Yeah. You said something that I don't hear very often in business as it relates to marketing: vulnerability. How important, because a lot of people are afraid to show their vulnerable side in business. How do you think showing that, and I mean, where do you draw the line in terms of vulnerability in business?
I think there's ways to show that you're vulnerable without telling your business. I think that you have to be really careful about what you put out and what exactly you say and who you share it with. And because there are people who will mistake it for weakness if it's not done the right way. So, but I do believe that like sharing, for instance, like I had a client share that, she's in a very, she's in a senior position at a really successful company, actually like a Fortune 500. And anyway, so she said that, that she was, when she was recently a new mother, there was a very important meeting that she had to attend, and she was trying to nurse her child and actually had to leave for a few days and was in pain from the engorgement of her breasts while she was traveling to basically do this for work. And she said she went to this meeting and she was speaking on a stage, and she said she got in front of this group and it was a lot of women, but there
Right.
were tons of men in there. And she said, I got up and I said to them, you know, I had something prepared, but, you know, I'm very emotional because I have a, you know, few weeks old baby at home that I left for 2 days to come speak at this conference. And in between, I'm trying to pump the milk and all the, and she just went through the whole thing and said, you know, and as I look at all the women here, and she went into this whole speech and it was beautiful. And she said, she doesn't even remember what she said, but
Right.
that was a standing ovation
Wow.
because people just admired her vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Spoke her truth instead of just talking about what she was human. And so
Yes.
I think that part of it is just not being a customer service like robot
Yeah.
or, you know, just automating your response to everything,
Mm-hmm.
like speaking truth about something. When I know that whenever I share something like that, like on Instagram,
Right.
I find so many people are like, I was thinking the same thing, or I needed to hear that today, or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
I know that like people, when we speak up, that we speak for a lot of people,
Yeah.
and it allows them to feel like their voices are being heard, even if they're not speaking up for themselves.
Exactly. Or that they're not alone and here's someone who understands me, who gets it. What was the one limiting belief as a person you had to let go of so that you can excel in your business?
I don't know that I let it go, but I think that it's something that I always have to constantly uh, address is just this feeling that like I'm not good enough to do this, or that, you know, like anything like that, like just a doubt that, oh, it's not like I say to myself I can't, but like maybe I'll sabotage myself somehow. I think that we all do it to certain degrees, and it just really depends like where, you know, it shows up for me, and the mood I'm in, where I'm affected by it. But you know, for the most part, it's like I've slayed the dragons of self-doubt, you know, but it comes up, you know, for sure. And it definitely is inflamed by experiences that I have where there's inequality, you know, whether it's like in my particular industry where you just see like just injustices in place where people, where there's barriers to access because of who you are, or the fact that people are in positions to open doors and they shut them
Right.
because they don't want to see certain people there, right? So I see that not just for myself, I see it for other people, and it's a real thing. And I think that that also wears you down, right? So I think that's another thing too that just makes you kind of like, you know, upset, or just feeling like, okay, it's even more of a reason that I have to get in position so that I can pull people and pull them up. So for me, it's like, you know, my friend had posted something about like, you know, let your haters motivate you. So I think it's kind of like one of those things where when we see people acting that way, it should just motivate us to like continue the course, but also to like help people up on our way. You know, if you feel helpless, you should help someone. If you feel ever that you're not, you know, oh, I'm not great, or this is, you know, whatever it is that you're saying to yourself that's like limiting, at that point, you should figure out like, what can I do right now that's going to change someone else's life? That'll empower you. You won't wallow in like your pity anymore, because you know that you're powerful. So I don't really stay in a state of like a funk or whatever about, you know, anything, but I would say that I'm aware of I'm aware of like what's in place, and where the impediments are, and I know who my supporters are and my cheerleaders are, and I don't necessarily know who aren't those people, but I can feel, right? I can feel who's there to bring love, and I can feel who isn't, you know? And so I think that we have to be really mindful of the people that we keep ourselves surrounded with, especially as we grow. You're going to notice that there's people who are your friends now, and as you're on the path and building a business and building a name for yourself and your brand is growing, they're going to veer to the left,
Yeah.
or they're going to be upset with you, or they're going to try to talk you down and put you in your place. And, you know, and these people will often be your family members and close friends and people that you trust and love, because they don't, not that they don't believe in you, but they're
scared. I think they're scared. Yeah.
They can't see it themselves.
Yeah.
So it's just important to kind of like, you know, constantly do the work to weed out that element for yourself and of your own voice that's doing that to you, as well as external voices.
That's so well said. Definitely. I want to, because you said as you're on your way up, I want to know what your definition of success is, because different people think of success in different ways. How would you define success, and what do you think is the key ingredient to success?
For me, I think success is just really not a place that you go, that you arrive at. I think that it's more of a feeling and a state of being, you know. For me, it's just like being able to have freedom. I think it's designing a life that allows you to do the things that are most important to you. And when you can do that, I mean, like, it's great to be able to buy stuff and pay tuition on time and rent and whatever it is, or buy a house. Like, all that stuff is really great. For me, it's like the most important thing is walking my son to school every day, having breakfast together, having dinner together.
Yeah.
If I have to like work in a way that doesn't allow me to do that, then I don't feel successful. Like, I don't feel like I created the life that I wanted, you know? So for me, it is like being able to have those special moments, being able to travel and see the world and do the things that I love. To me, that equates to success. You know, the other thing I would say is like how many people that I've been able to help. Like, I measure it based on like satisfaction of my clients. To me, it's just that kind of stuff. It's not really like, you know, accolades and, you know, all that stuff. Cause that stuff is just, it's all really a result of the work that you've done. So if you've done the work, those things come anyway. So to me, the work itself that, you know, is the nexus.
Yeah. The process.
Yeah. To me, it's just that. It's those things. And I don't necessarily walk around feeling successful. I think I walk around feeling full and that purpose. And I think that if you have that written on your soul and you're walking around with that in your heart, then you're going to be led to the pathway of success, and you're going to like, knock on doors that'll open and bring opportunity. So it doesn't have to be that you are, you know, I think if you seek the mission, like you were talking about the mission and the movement, like if that's what's powering you, then the success comes. But I think if you're going backwards, like, okay, well, I want the fame, the money, this, you want those kind of things. You may get those things, but if you want those things as a driver, then it's harder to align the work. It's harder to figure out what the through line is, like from where you're getting to point A to that.
Sure.
You don't have the gateway in place because you don't know what you want to offer for service. Like, you don't know what your purpose is that God put you here to do. You have to chime in on what that is first. Like, why did God put you here? What is your unique gift? How will you deliver it to the world? Figure that out. Focus on it. Keep doing it. Get great at it. And everything else will come. And to me, that's success.
I love that. I really love that. And I think that's really a key to a more empowered and fulfilling life, really.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is in the next phase for you? Because you've created Mama Glow, and I know your son is growing up to be a phenomenal person. He's just starting off, and he's already propelling in his career to places that a lot of people still dream about as adults. What's the next phase for Latham? What's going to be your next level?
Well, I'm phasing out of the day-to-day at Mama Glow, so I still will be there for visual, or not visual, but creative direction and vision, and as a figurehead in the sense of maintaining the ethos of the company.
Right.
And I'm moving into a space that is a lifestyle space for everyone. It's focused on rituals. It'll launch soon this spring. Okay. It's under my name. There'll be a magazine there, and it'll be really cool. So that's happening. You can go to lathamthomas.com. There's just a splash page for now, but that'll be happening. And and then there'll just be more, more work and play in the space of self-care and this movement and travel and all the things that I love to do that I don't really share on the Mama Glow platform in the same way, but through my particular lens. So there'll be more stuff like that. I have another book coming in 2017. Oh, nice. In time for International Women's Day. So that'll be great too when that finally gets out.
No little sneak peeks into what the book is about?
It's called Own Your Glow, A Soulful Guide to Luminous Living and Crowning the Queen Within. Nice. So it is like an empowerment book. I've been teasing little pieces of it here and there through social. I'll do more of that like probably in the fall.
Right.
But yeah, that's coming. So there's just a lot of stuff that I'm always involved in. Nice. And, obviously super involved in like the Mama Glow events platform, and really like, this next phase, we have like a great group of people who are coming on board to propel the company in a direction that's like unforeseen in this space. So I'm really looking forward to that and being a part of that. But I just am glad that I was able to spearhead something that could help a lot of people, and just look forward to watching that grow. Yeah. It's sort of like when you have a baby, you have to carry the baby and nurse the baby and change a diaper and do everything like you have to do when you first launch a business. It is like every single thing possible you are doing to make sure it succeeds. And then all of a sudden, one day, it starts from crawling, it starts walking and running. And then it goes to preschool, and then it's like all this stuff.
It's beyond like, you. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, like Mama Glow's 5. It does not need my hand held. It's like, it's a toddler. It's like on with life. So I can actually step away and not feel like every single day and at every single juncture I have to be there. It's really liberating for me to move into a different area that allows me to do more for myself, and also fill other creative outlets that I have, because I'm very creative. So I just need to stay.
Yeah, I can tell. Definitely. I mean, it shows in everything you do. So Latham, if anyone wants to get to know more about you and your book, where should they go to get some more information?
Yeah, so you can go to mamaglow.com and you can find my book there. On Amazon, Mama Glow.
Right.
And then if you want to see what we're doing at lathamthomas.com, you can subscribe, and as soon as everything's ready, you'll be able to check out the new platform, which will be beautiful there. But otherwise, see you on Mama Glow. And then I'm on all the social media platforms under Glow Maven, GLOWMAVEN.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Latham.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel by hitting the subscribe button below. And for more actionable tips on building your profitable brand and personal freedom, visit www.hannahfitz.com.